unpack. We unpack. We unpack. Coming to you live, Boxingego unpack. Yeah. We unpack. We unpack. We unpack. Coming to you live. Showtime head Steven Espinoza confirms that Spence versus Crawford is not Photoshop and it does appear on Spectrum, but he explains why. In this video, I will break down what he said and why that shows up on the Spectrum upcoming events list. Stay tuned. What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I am back with some more boxing. The much anticipated follow-up video. Now, you guys got to subscribe to the channel. I keep you guys plugged in. Tap in with me. What's going on in the world of boxing? I made a previous video, gained some traction. A lot of people made videos after me, and a lot of fans were talking about it. So basically, Spectrum, on their upcoming events list, says don't miss a single event. Spectrum pay-per-view, right? It says wrestling and boxing. It shows fights like this weekend's Paul versus Fury, Tommy Fury. Shows PBC March 25th, Caleb Plant versus Benavidez. It shows Gervonta Davis, Ryan Garcia, Canelo versus TBD. But this specific one, it says boxing to be determined in June, Spence versus Crawford, $75. Obviously, this came about, this leaked, people seen it, and immediately got curious. Steven Espinoza seen this, and it says, shout out to my dude Danny, and it says Spence versus Crawford in June, ? Hashtag boxing Spence Crawford. Steven Espinoza, he actually responded to this, and he explains how this comes about and under what circumstance this comes about. Look at people in the comment section going crazy. Get some help. Some people believe in it, some people not. So, verified page, Steven Espinoza. Let me get it nice and crispy for you guys. He says, no, it is not Photoshopped. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but this list reflects pay-per-view date holds. Doesn't mean a fight is made. Just means someone reserved those dates at some point in the past, possibly distant past. So Steven Espinoza is clearing the air right then and there, and he's saying to clarify that these are just pay-per-view date holds. So you pencil and earmark something on the calendar for a potential date, right? This is what I said in my video. I said, I got to hear it from PBC. I got to hear from Errol Spence or Terrence Crawford that the fight is official, because it could be just something that's earmarked. And this basically, it stipulates that, like, for example, MGM, I think it was, or in Vegas, they had certain dates that were booked for January and February contingent on getting a deal for Spence Crawford. That's the same kind of situation where the fight wasn't made because Crawford, came out with this, I don't know, play action pass, whatever you want to call it, and he decided to fight David Avanesian. So the fight didn't happen, but they still have to do the preparation and planning. So put a hold or a reserve on the venue where they think they're going to try to have the fight. It's the same way. That's what basically Steven Espinoza is saying, is it works the same way. These are basically dates that are kind of reserved and held out when they think they have something. And he says in the past or possibly distant past. So that's not really saying much if there's an active negotiation, but I'm sure he's not really at liberty to kind of go into those details, because the more you go into details and try to negotiate with the public, I've always been a huge proponent of the more you reveal and negotiate to the public, the harder it is to actually make the fights. Somebody asked a question like, hey, it says, what are the exact terms that are preventing this fight from being made? Now, this person is just obviously asking, but that's not something that he's going to be at liberty to discuss. And It says, to be fair, there's no way I'd answer this question if I were him. Steven Espinoza obviously agreed and said answering the question would only make the situation more difficult to resolve. And I agree with that. Because again, you don't want to start spilling the beans. And he said it's worth a try. So no shame in trying, right? But again, for a fight that's sensitive, if you already have stumbling blocks and you already have different potential roadblocks that can make or break and prevent the fight from either A, happening, or B, not happening, or C, happening at a later date, when you try to involve the public in it, then that just becomes even more chaotic. And it's really a silly move. Just to give you guys an example of what Boxingego is talking about. So, for example, if Steven Espinoza he had a leaky faucet mouth and he just starts telling all the issues that, let's say Crawford has some issues, right? And he actually wants more money. We'll just make something up. I'm not saying this is true. I'm just giving you guys an example. But let's say Crawford wants more money. Then if Steven Espinoza starts blabbering that and spilling the beans on what the hangups are to the public, then people would watch the interview on YouTube or get it from Twitter or wherever this was, Reddit, and they would take this newfound knowledge and then start harassing the fighter. They would like say, oh, Terrence Crawford, shut up and take the money, take the fight, and things like that, which could further agitate the person or prevent the fight from happening, because nobody wants to hear that. You know what I mean? Or sometimes if you're trying to negotiate in terms of business and then you feel someone's bad mouthing you, what's going to urge you to want to take a deal with that person and like work with that person if they feel you're making them look bad? So Steven Espinoza absolutely has the right play by saying less. The more you say, especially during, the worse it is, because again, it doesn't solve the problem, and it only adds fuel to the problem because others have the ability to chime in, and that's definitely not what you want. I look at it like the internet is one big high school. That's what I think of the internet as, is one big high school. And the thing with high school is you have a lot of different personalities. You got the cool kids, you got the nerds, you got the, in between. It's just too many different opinions and personalities. So it becomes too many hands in the cookie jar. And there's people like, what I've noticed personally from the internet is this. You got people on the internet that don't own businesses, never owned a business, don't have a business license, don't like nothing, right? They might work a regular 9-to-5 job, and there's nothing wrong with that. But the reality is, if you've never owned a business and then you're trying to tell Steven Espinoza how to structure a multi-million-dollar deal when he's done and been in part with Al Heyman and everybody else of the biggest fights in boxing history, it looks foolish. And only on the internet do you typically find this, where you'll have somebody, there could be someone who works for NASA, and then you'll have somebody who works at, Chick-fil-A in the comments section, and they're telling the NASA scientist about rocket engineering or whatever the situation is, right? And it's like, where's your expertise? And I'm not saying you can't work at Chick-fil-A and be interested in it, but if you really had the knowledge, then why aren't you working at NASA, right? If you know so much about it. So just word to the wise, it's much better when you don't involve the public. That's not going to expedite things. It's only going to infuriate things. You know what it's kind of like when you tell the public, I keep thinking of these, I'm the king of analogies, so I keep thinking of these analogies as I'm talking. But it reminds me of, like, let's say you fall and scrape your knee and you scrape your arm. And then on your arm, you have a wound. It was bleeding or whatever. And you take the bandage off day 2 and you start picking at it. And then you put a Band-Aid back on. Then later on, let's say you wait a couple of days, it starts to scab over. And you keep picking at that scab. You're not allowing the wound to fully heal because you're so busy picking at it. And you run the risk of getting an infection. That's the analogy that comes to mind when it comes to involving the public in negotiations. It's like picking at a scab. You already have a fighter who maybe wants certain things, or they're at the table with you and there's a disagreement and you're trying to come to an agreement that makes sense. But at the same time, you're picking at the scab by involving the public. And when you involve the public, it only makes it more complex. So we'll see soon enough. Errol Spence, I mean, at some point he'll have to resume his career, and at some point he'll have no choice but to announce his fight. So I'm perfectly fine waiting, and I want to hear it from a reliable source, not like this speculation. That's actually one of the things that's hurting boxing. I'm not going to say killing boxing, because boxing's been around for hundreds of years, but I would say hurting boxing. It would be so much better if the fighters or maybe the promoter, the actual network, announced the fights, instead of people trying to be self-serving and announce all the fights prematurely or with half of the details and stuff. It would just be better. I just want to wake up and see Errol Spence and Terrence Crawford, or Errol Spence and Keith Thurman, or whoever he fights. I want to see them post it. I don't really want to see like, oh, sources say that Errol Spence said that he's going to do this and whoop, whoop, wompty. I just want to hear it from the fighters. And I think boxing would be a lot smoother. But, we live in a TikTok age with YouTube and Instagram and things like that. And everybody wants clout. We got clout goblins, and, the rest is history. But we'll see. Soon enough, Errol Spence will announce his next move, and I'll be here to report it. Drop your thoughts in the comment section. We unpack. Introducing Super Thanks. Right here on the official Boxingego YouTube. Super Thanks allows you, the viewers, to show a little bit of extra gratitude, which enables me as a full-time content creator to push out the content you need in the world of boxing. Underneath all the videos, you will see a heart with the $sign in it. You can enter any amount that you find suitable as a super thanks. A brand new, interactive, and colorful way to get your comments highlighted and noticed by not only myself, but other people on the YouTube platform. Super thanks, a unique and cool way to show and applaud us full-time content creators. Hopefully you guys enjoy the content. Super thanks. The future is now. The Hibernation 5s by Kenichi Bear. Hybrid gaming and lifestyle headphones. Out of the box, you can connect to any console or PC. Bluetooth ready with a low latency USB adapter, color RGB, and extreme bass mode. The Hibernation 5s adjust to you. Whether you need a gaming, travel, gym, or lifestyle headphones, the Hibernations got you covered. The new Hibernation 5s, link in the description. Customize the way you hear the world. Welcome to the nation. Are you tired of your YouTube videos not getting any views? Well, consider TubeBuddy. I've used TubeBuddy for years to scale up my YouTube channel. Now we're sitting over 200,000 subscribers. TubeBuddy is a browser extension that offers a ton of built-in productivity and time-saving services to take your channel to the next level. Use my link in the description to get started with TubeBuddy and level up your channel faster. We working.